I recently asked you guys on Instagram if you had any questions for me for a Q&A, and the majority of questions I received either fell into like the life category or the travel category, so I decided to split it into two videos to answer them. I've already posted the life Q&A, so if you haven't seen that and you'd like to, I will have it up here or linked down below. And in this video, I'm going to be answering the travel questions that you guys sent me. What do you think the future of travel looks like after this situation? I think that travel will recover. It will be rocky for a while, especially if we do end up with waves of this. But I actually think that once this thing is truly over, travel is going to boom because everybody's been stuck at home, cooped up. And I think that people who don't even travel regularly are going to be itching to get out and go somewhere. Did you have any travel plans affected by the current situation? Yes, unfortunately, I had more than a handful of trips canceled. 2020 was by far going to be the biggest year of travel for me yet, especially travel in Asia. I had 3 separate trips to Asia canceled. Will you go back to traveling after quarantine? Where's the first place you're going to visit once you're able to? Once we're really in the clear to travel, I will 100% be getting on a plane and going somewhere. If I could get on a plane to anywhere today, I would probably fly to Tennessee to just spend some time with my dad, like see family. And then second would be a trip to Southeast Asia since there were so many plans that fell through there. What is your dream destination? Antarctica and an overwater hut in Bora Bora. Do you like domestic or international travel more? I love both for completely different reasons. Domestic travel is very stress-free for me because I'm not leaving the country. It's not a different currency. I feel totally comfortable renting a car. I think international travel is more exciting. It's more thrilling. It pushes me more out of my comfort zone, but it's also more stressful. What destinations in the US would you recommend for solo travelers? There are so many great cities in this country to visit, but 3 that popped into my head when I read that question are Savannah, Georgia. Savannah is so great. It's small. You can walk the whole thing in a day. Charleston, South Carolina is a must see. It's a little bit bigger than Savannah, but it's so charming. And then New York City. I love New York. I never get tired of visiting New York, and I think that everybody should spend some time just walking around New York City. What US state has the best food you've tried? Well, outside of Washington, because Seattle has a really great food scene. I love the restaurants here. I would probably say New York. During your solo trips, do you ever wish you could share a moment with someone? All the time. On every single trip I've ever taken, there has been a time where I've seen something really amazing and thought, oh, I wish someone was here. But when I'm traveling, I'm shooting videos and taking photos that I share with you guys. So I do, in a way, feel like I am sharing it with someone. How do you get photos while solo traveling? I'm planning on doing a larger video discussing this, but in short, there are 3 ways. Hire a local photographer, take them yourself with a tripod and interval timer, or ask a stranger. Where was the first place you went that made you love to travel? So when I was 9 years old, my family moved to the Philippines because my dad is an engineer and he was working on a project over there for a few years. That was definitely my first real taste of travel. While I was there, we got to travel all through the Philippines. We also took a trip to Australia. It was my first time experiencing a culture that was any different than growing up in Washington State. And that definitely gave me the travel bug. It also made me feel comfortable with the idea of international travel at an early age and made me feel like international travel was definitely doable at an early age. So when I got older and was able to travel by myself, it didn't feel like as big of an obstacle to leave the country. What are your favorite places you've been to? I've loved so many places, but the ones that really stand out in my head are Japan, the American Southwest, Lake Como, and Venice in Italy. Where was your first solo trip? I went to Iceland and I rented a car and I road tripped along the South Coast for a week, and I have a video on it that will be up here or down there. How does one go about starting a travel YouTube channel with limited funds and equipment? Work with what you have. No one starts their channel with all of the equipment or the funds that they need to do the content that they want to do. Like, I filmed my first videos on an old mini DVD camcorder that I found in my parents' house. I had no lighting. I had an old laptop that took 3 hours to export a video. Don't look at people who've been doing it for a while and compare your setup to theirs. Just start and work with what you have. Smartphones have such great cameras these days. If all you have is your phone to film on, that's totally okay. And then I would focus on doing travel content close to home, because even though it might not feel like travel to you to do like a city guide of your city or a city that you can drive to. It does feel like travel content to everybody who doesn't live there. So remember that you don't necessarily have to travel very far for it to be a faraway destination for other people. What does your husband think about your solo travels? Does he ever feel like he's missing out? He's extremely supportive. He's always really excited for me when I get to go somewhere new, and he definitely wishes he could come along on some of the trips. Do you ever travel with your husband? Would you rather travel with your husband? We travel together when we can, and we would like to travel together more. It's just that we have different schedules, different stuff going on. I would love to share more of my travel experiences with him, but I also think there's something so amazing and empowering about solo travel that I don't think I would ever stop doing that completely. Do you prefer to travel to places with rich history or places that are scenic? So I have to confess, and sometimes I feel like this makes me a bad traveler, but history bores me really quickly. Like, I like a little bit of history, but I don't want to spend a whole entire week going through museums and like cultural sites. Scenic never gets old. Like, I never get tired of a beautiful beach. So I would probably say I prefer scenic. How do you pick your destinations? I mostly get my inspiration from social media. Like, it's hard to be on any social media platform these days and not get ideas of where to travel. So I have a long running list of places I want to go saved on my computer, and when I'm ready to book a trip, I go through that list and I look at what's in season, like what's good to visit at the time of year I'm looking to travel, and then I just look at flights for all the places and hotels for all the places and find out what's cheapest, and that's how I pick. How do you decide on a trip length for new places? Can a long weekend trip do abroad justice? So when I'm trying to determine how long I need to be in a destination, I like to research all of the things I want to do or see while I'm there, and then I just account for 1 to 2 a day and then add up how many days that would be. As far as going abroad for a long weekend, it kind of depends on where you live and where abroad is for you, but I definitely think like if that's your only option to travel on 3-day weekends, then I would go for it. Like, I think going for a long weekend is better than never going at all. Are there any places you have no desire to travel to? I would say no. There are places I wouldn't travel to right now because of safety concerns, but everything is always changing. In 20 years, countries that are considered unsafe for me to visit right now might not be that way. So I don't have it in my head that I would never go to certain places. When you travel, who feeds your cat? Well, if it's just me traveling, my husband is often home and he can feed her. And if we're both traveling, we have a cat sitter who comes. How do you find your way around in foreign countries without internet? I'm actually on T-Mobile and they offer free international data with the plan that I'm on. I think most of the plans that they have. So I always have internet and I don't have to do anything to activate it. Like when I touch down in a new country, I just turn my phone on and it's like, welcome to Canada or welcome to Japan. What are your travel tips for college students and people on a budget? One, I would say travel in cheaper regions. There's a reason that Southeast Asia is great for backpacking because you can get a bed in a hostel there for like $10 a night. Stay in hostels, they're affordable and they're a great way to meet other travelers. Also consider looking for work that allows you to travel. I was blown away last summer when I was on my Alaskan cruise. So many of the people working on the ship were 20-somethings and they told me that they stay on the ship for 4 months at a time as it travels around the world. So they had been everywhere. I thought that sounded like such a fun job, especially because there's definitely a community of like everyone who works on the ship is friends. How far in advance do you book your flights? I would say it's usually about 6 weeks in advance, unless it's for the holidays, and then I'll try to book earlier. But aside from that, I found that you don't usually get a price break booking more than 6 weeks in advance. And actually more often than not, when I book something 3 months in advance and then I continue to watch prices, they usually dip. What is your must-have travel clothing? I actually have a page on my website with all of my travel essentials on it, so I will link it down below. But in short, it's the Lululemon on the fly pants, usually one of my Outdoor Voices long sleeve tees, and my APL sneakers. Do you buy flights directly from airlines or from travel agents and third parties? If I can, I buy directly from airlines. It's so much easier to work with an airline if you need to change or cancel something. So unless I see a deal on a third-party site that's just so much better than what the airline is offering, I book with the airline. How has travel impacted your views on minimalism and vice versa? Travel has made me realize that if I'm enjoying my day-to-day life, I don't really care about things. I can go traveling for a couple of weeks with just a suitcase full of stuff and I'm not sitting there thinking, I wish I had more clothes, more shoes, more trinkets, more decor. I don't miss any of that stuff when I'm traveling, which tells me that there is a way to be happy in life without all of that stuff. And that for at least me personally, the accumulation of all that stuff is likely an attempt to try and create happiness in my life. Do you usually book group tours or do you go everywhere alone when solo traveling? So I wasn't sure if this question meant, do I join group trips when I go solo traveling, like hop on like a multi-day trip? The only trip like that I've ever been on is when I went to Jordan. I went on an all-female tour with TBA Escapes. Otherwise, when I'm solo traveling, I'm usually just traveling alone, but I do always like to book a group activity, like an afternoon activity, whether that's a paddleboarding tour, a cooking class, just something where I get to learn something new or see something new and spend some time with other travelers. Was Kirsten from The Blonde Abroad as nice in person as she seems on her socials? So if you don't know, Kirsten is the founder of TBA Escapes, which is the tour that I went on in Jordan, and she was on the tour. She is so nice and so fun. If you have the chance to go on one of her tours with her, you're gonna have a great time. And then the last question is, if you had to choose one destination to go to repeatedly without getting bored, where would it be? I think Hawaii. It's beautiful, the weather's nice, there's lots of islands to explore. Who could get tired of Hawaii? So that's it for the travel questions. Thank you to everybody who sent them in. Fingers crossed we'll be able to get back to traveling soon. I would love to know what your experience has been like with travel and this whole situation. If you've had things canceled or if you're just like sitting at home feeling super wanderlusty like I am. I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.